October. So we're glad to be on air for the kickoff of the fall season, get people thinking about New York State travel throughout fall. Winter, of course, is fast approaching. I hear there's snow being created in some ski mountains, and our team is busy readying our winter commercials so that we expect those to be on air, hopefully just as the ski season begins. And as usual, the television commercials isn't the only part of our winter promotion. We basically switch over I Love New York to winter, and that will include promotion across all our channels, digital, social, ski reports available on 1-800-CALL-NYS, which we do in partnership with the ski areas of New York State and the cross-country ski areas of New York, and continuing PR efforts to get people thinking about New York, which, as we know, has more ski areas than anywhere in the nation. The highest snowfall in the Tug Hill Plateau for snowmobiling, and there's nowhere you want to rather travel for winter. So, and speaking of winter, we after a hiatus of 2 years, I Love New York brought back our very popular Winter Media Night on October 26th at the event venue 235th here in New York City. We co-hosted that, as we usually do, with the Olympic Regional Development Authority, ORDA, and the Ski Association of New York to highlight the upcoming winter activities all across New York. And our theme this year was A Winter's Tale. You can see the invitation there, and featured activations highlighting exciting upcoming events, in particular the World University Games in Lake Placid, as well as fun winter activities like skiing and spa visits and ice wine tasting. We had 57 journalists in attendance that included writers from Travel and Leisure and Skift and Women's Health and Lonely Planet, to name just a few. We had participation from 10 different ski areas across the state, 11 of our tourism promotion agencies, and 3 state partners, in order to network with the journalists and inform them about the local attractions, activities, and events that people could enjoy over the winter, and more importantly, that journalists could write about. To get their readers and viewers interested. So while there was, in addition to networking with our partners that were there, we had 4 unique experiences. The reason journalists keep coming to this event, they tell us, is, frankly, they're not only informative, but they're fun and they're different and they're interesting. Because at the end of the day, we are competing for their attention with lots of other things going on. So we have to have a draw. And this year we were able to have, ORDA had an exhibit area that included things like giving away actual tickets from the 1980 Olympics. They found a box somewhere on site and they were giving away tickets. It was pretty cool. There was a Lake Placid 2023 World University Games area with Adirondack Mac. That's the moose you see in the picture there. People love getting their picture taken with the mascot for the University Games. Merbo Inn and Spa was there. They had a treatment area. They were doing hand massages to promote spa getaways in the winter. We had ice wine tastings, courtesy of Casa Larga Vineyards, as well as a cozy après ski lounge. You don't see the picture here, but it was quite cute, complete with a video fireplace. It was very cute. And something new we had this year was a stamp card to encourage media to visit every participant. Once they got enough stamps, they were then entered into a raffle for a 2-night stay at Merbo. And our partners told us that was a great way to get people around the room. And they said they had some really great conversations. So we were excited about that. As Christine was alluding to, this sort of created this unofficial tourism week in New York City that week. The Wednesday night was our media night. Thursday night was the kickoff of the Mistia conference you heard about. And then Friday through Sunday, October 28th through 30th, I Love New York participated in the International Travel Show that was held at the Javits Center. It's the first show of its kind in the Javits. And we were an official bronze sponsor, which gave us pre-show exposure, like a quarter-page ad in Travel and Leisure, and logo placement on the show's website, and promotional emails, signage across the show, et cetera, et cetera. We participated with a branded aisle, as you can see here, that featured 8 New York State partners from across the state. Our aisle featured an I Love New York heart balloons and seasonal arches. Those you can't necessarily tell by the picture, but there's actually an arch for each season that sort of shows off the best of New York for the different seasons and getting across the idea that we are a year-round attraction. We had brand ambassadors dressed in costumes depicting some of the varied activities to do across the season. So we had somebody dressed as a hiker and somebody dressed as a It's, I guess it's a farmer. They were like collecting apples. We had a skier. It was a lot of fun, actually. We also administered a short survey to guests in the aisle that, upon completion, gave 3 attendees a chance to win an I Love New York swag bag, and that also allowed us to see what their experience was in the aisle. So we'll be able to analyze that and see the experience they had. We do know we were able to measure audience traffic using sensors placed throughout the aisle, and there was over 18,000 unique attendees walking through the aisle at least once. Over 6,500 of those attendees engaged for at least a minute. And for those who engaged for a minute, the average time was 14 minutes that they interacted in the aisle. So we'll be taking a look. It's the first year of a new show. So, you have to kind of build the audience, see how it goes. And we're going to have to do the evaluation, but certainly it was good to be there, and our partners appreciate our support.
Any idea how that 14 minutes compares with other exhibits and how they fared and how long
within that show? Obviously, no. I mean, they don't share their data with us, but we are going to talk to the show and try to get some sense of their overall numbers.
Because it seems like a long time.
It is a good time.
It's the first time we've trialed a new tech component to help us track these kinds of metrics. So it actually worked out really well in terms of our understanding at trade shows, because we rely really heavily on the show's information. But as you can imagine, they're trying to upsell us. And so they're going to kind of wash over this data in a way in which we can't pick it apart. So we can tell whether or not it's actually advantageous for us to be there. And so we actually found this partner, and the data was actually amazing. We have click through data all the way down to more than this. We are figuring out whether or not how we can leverage this data across all of our footprints, including other trade shows in the future. So we'll at least in the future be able to compare show to show that we are at, but the shows themselves do not offer us this data.
How many vendors were there?
I don't have the complete count yet.
200 in the footprint.
Overall, in the entire show?
Or in the whole show?
In the whole show, yeah.
Yeah, about 200.
200.
About 200.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
And then they're getting it off the ground.
And there was
Yeah.
also international and
Yeah.
national. There were, Florida was there, and there were a couple of other
And
states
Brazil
there.
had a
Brazil had a big
Brazil had a big
space.
presence.
Yeah.
And
cruise.
Yes.
yeah, no, just because that amount of time is a significant amount of time to stay anywhere.
I think especially because we are a domestic
Yeah.
player in an international show at that. So to me, it tells us a lot about both our presence and the engagement of the partners who were there with us in the aisle.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're trying to just figure out better ways or additional ways to measure the effectiveness of all of our experiential activations. In the past, we would rely on opt-ins and emails. And that's great. We still want that data. But if someone walks through, whether on a consumer-facing event or industry-facing event, if someone walks through, has a good experience and spends 15 minutes but doesn't leave their email, it doesn't mean it's a loss. So how do we measure beyond those who just come in and leave some type of piece of specific data? So these different ways of working with vendors to get a sense of how much time you spend, the satisfaction survey, those are all sort of leading towards more better attribution on all of our experiential activations.
I think it was, I guess, 2 years before the pandemic when we had a TAC meeting at Javits. And so we were able to actually walk through
Right.
as part of it. And I think the activation that we had then was actually a lot of fun as well. It didn't have a tech component to it, but it had a tasting component. And people like that a lot. We also have that as well. The
Yeah.
show,
We did have that.
The show itself actually had a little, they called it a New York cafe, I think they called it. And they were serving cider donuts and cider for a lot of the show. So that was pretty cool. That was as you walked into the first arch on the left there it was. So it's kind of greeted you to the New York experience.
These numbers are amazing also for us as the partners that are showcasing there. And if there's a way that we can possibly just continue to share a little bit more of those data, it'd be really helpful, because all of us throughout the state, we're developing our trade show calendars now for 2023. And I think this is really good in a way to sell it. And it also emphasizes the collaboration is key, right? We were there, Westchester was there, Dutchess was there, the city was there right across Rockland. And I think it really builds enthusiasm to participate with your support.
Yeah, it was actually a big part of the reason why we wanted to trial this,
Love it.
this tool. In the future, I won't bore you with the specifics of where sensors need to
Right.
be placed, but the goal in the future is to be able to say Westchester drove the traffic and drove the engagement, right? We want to be able to get that granular so we can help our partners, because whatever they're doing, if they are helping, we want to be able to share that data with everyone else to say, these kinds of conversations are actually leading the engagement. So the hope is that we can trial this tool beyond this trade show and that kind of thing. But I will say the value is certainly here. So the hope is that we use it again.
Great thinking. Thank you.
And I just wanted to mention, Ross, I was so happy that New York City was in there as part of the New York State experience. And it really looked beautiful. And where the state was positioned right at the entrance, it was just fabulous. And people really enjoyed going down that aisle. So
Well, we very much-
congratulations.
We very much appreciate New York City and Company being part of this. I know you had other offers elsewhere in the floor, and New York City and Company said, no, we're part of New York State. And so we
That's
were thrilled to be a unified presence. So thank you. As part of the show, we also, and as part of our sponsorship that we did, we also had the opportunity to host a press event during the Friday Trade Day, which was a lot of fun. And this was for any registered media attendees and allowed us to highlight what's new in New York State with recent and upcoming tourism developments. So this, was basically in 15 minutes, the grand overview of what's happening, what's new in New York State. And one of the fun things we did, because we want press to come and we want it to pop, right? We want it to be memorable to them. So we were able to have a special video message from comedian Louis Black, courtesy of the National Comedy Center, that introduced a little short video for the Comedy Center. You've seen that video before, but you haven't seen Louis, so we thought we would show him now.
Thank you, Ross. And hello to all the travel media at the Javits Center for the New York International Travel Show. Oh, I wish I was with you. I'm Louis Black, by the way, and I live in New York City, but I travel nearly everywhere across the country. I'm in Chicago now, so I know a bit about what New York has to offer to its visitors. There is something for everyone in New York State. I mean it. Personally, I love the Museum of Modern Art right here in New York City, or the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, and then there's the Chautauqua Institution in Western New York. But the one cultural institution that is the closest to my heart is the National Comedy Center in Jamestown, New York, Lucille Ball's hometown. This museum is and remember this, the Library of Congress for comedy. If you love comedy, you have to visit this place. And it's more fun than the Library of Congress, I can assure you. Here.
So that gives you a sense, and that led into the National Comedy Center video. And that was just part of what we did. We also, in addition to the presentation we had those seasonal brand ambassadors come down for photo opportunities in front of a logo step and repeat we had. And we also handed out I Love New York cookies that we made as a takeaway gift for all the journalists in attendance. We had around 30 media attend. That was great, and it really gave us the opportunity to pitch them on new story angles. And we also wrapped up the conference with a short sizzle reel that encapsulated all the state had to offer this. We'll show that to you now too. So overall, we're very pleased with our effort at the travel show, and I particularly want to thank Danae Parsip-Jones from our team, Rowan Sahuli, who particularly in Lisa Soto's absence, did a great job together with Finn Partners in both the show floor and the press conference. Also in fall was our time for our the second of our annual Path Through History weekends. We hosted that on October 8th through 10th to showcase some of the state's historic and heritage travel sites. As you know, Path Through History uses 14 different themes with more than 700 historic sites, attractions, and locations throughout the state to let folks who want heritage travel to be part of their trip to find an easy way to do that. And the Path Through History weekends occur twice a year, once in June, once in October, to promote heritage travel locations through special event programming that our host sites put on, and then we promote on a grander scale. This year, over the course of the year, we promoted close to 300 events with over 170 different host sites hosting events. The June Path Through History weekends promoted over 150 events, and the October one promoted over 130. And David Contras-Turley and Heather McElhenney, our team members, helped make that possible. So in addition to our promotional marketing work, we of course are trying to work to support our industry as well. In light of this year's Harriet Tubman bicentennial celebration of her birth, and to highlight some of the great work accomplished this year by so many in the industry, the Division of Tourism hosted an I Love New York webinar in September that focused on the pivotal role the state has in the Underground Railroad history and the impact that those heritage sites have on tourism. It was hosted with partners from Tour Cayuga and the Underground Railroad Consortium of New York State. And the goal was to highlight for our local TPA partners the significant potential that the Underground Railroad has for attracting visitors. And so the topics discussed included New York's role and prominence in the Underground Railroad, tourism demand and interest for Underground Railroad sites, and the breadth of Underground Railroad sites across New York State. So we were happy to be able to host that. And we continue with our webinar and educational work. Of course, our grants and the money we give away to others is an important way that we support the industry. As we've mentioned in previous meetings, the New York State Return to Work and Meet New York grant programs, you'll remember, launched earlier this year to help the tourism industry rebuild from the pandemic by offering state funds either for new employees hired within the tourism industry, and it gives funding to employers that hire new tourism employees, and also provides funding for discounts offered by event venues and lodging facilities for events that are held here in New York State. And since we met, we've recently made some important updates to these programs to increase the eligibility and make applying easier for tourism businesses and organizations. To go over some of the highlights of those changes, for the Return to Work, that's the program that gives money to employers who hire employees in the tourism industry. The growth period was enhanced to include jobs added from July through September. The initial period was going to be only for the first part of the year, but now employers could also look at employees added from July to September of 2022. Amended program rules applying to economic harm, minimum employee increases, and increased caps were altered to make it easier, and there was clarification of existing guidelines around fiscal year requirements. The Meet in New York program, that's the one that gives money either to event venues or to hotels and other lodging that offer block rooms connected to events. That period for the program application was extended. It was supposed to end in December, and it's now been extended to next June 30th of 2023. The event date, the date by which an event must happen, was also extended until December 31st of 2025. So if somebody's booking 2 years out for an event, as long as they apply by next June, they would be eligible for the program. The minimum venue size requirement was adjusted, allows for smaller venues to participate. And then there was new flexibility with proof of booking documentation. You used to have a signed contract before you could apply. Now you can just have a written proposal. So we're hoping that all those things make this easier for people to take advantage of. And equally important, we're trying to work to get the word out that these programs exist for people. So we're working on a renewed outreach and promotional plan to make sure that more locations are aware of the recent updates, as well as offer assistance and greater insight on eligibility and how to apply. Most notably, we now have a dedicated staff member available for one-on-one consultations with people to help walk them through the applications if they have questions, so people can make online appointments to talk to an online counselor with that. We asked the TAC actually for any help in spreading the word on this. If you work with any businesses that you think can take advantage of it, either the return to work because they've hired employees, or any event venues you work with, any hotels, any lodging, please let people know. The funding's there. It'd be great for people to take advantage of it. Our other grant programs continue, matching funds, of course. The program guidelines were sent to our TPA partners. You'll remember every county in New York State is eligible for tourism matching funds, to where the state matches 1-for-1 the work that they do to support tourism. The new guidelines were sent out to the TPA partners on September 19th, and the deadline for the first part of their application was due on Halloween, and the second part was sent with their award estimate letters, award estimate letters just last week. So that program moves along. Market New York continues into a round 12. You'll remember these are the competitive funds available for people in the public or private sector that are doing tourism projects, whether that be marketing, working capital, or even capital projects. We received the deadline for applications was July 29th. We had 146 applications come in, totaling $34.5 million of requested funding. The sort of good news, bad news is only $15 million is available. So the good news is that people care and it's competitive and we have good programs to choose from. The bad news is it's a competitive program where basically half of the amount being requested won't be able to be funded. But we're excited for the opportunity to do this, and the awards are expected to be announced in the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. You'll also remember prior meetings talking about the EDA competitive sub-awards, the money received from the federal government, from the Economic Development Administration, the $45 million that New York State received over the next 3 years to do tourism work and come back from the pandemic. We decided to give $14.25 million to our destination marketing organization partners across the state. Again, it had to be a competitive program under the federal government. So over $29 million was requested from 33 eligible applications. So again, a very competitive pool, but we're working with the EDA. They have to review the awards, but we're hoping that we'll be able to plan the announcement of those awards in the next few weeks. And then the last thing I will just mention as a point of privilege is while Lisa Soto was away, I'm sorry, not while Lisa was away, we have a number of people away on parental leave at I Love New York, so it's hard to keep track. While Kelly Garofalo Wilkins was away, and you'll all know that Kelly normally supports us for our TAC meetings, Sarah Emmer, her supervisor and our colleague, ably took over in her stead in addition to her other work. So Sarah is hoping this is the last meeting, no offense to all of you, but she's hoping she gets to go back to her core work and that Kelly will be returning for our next TAC meeting, but I wanted to thank her for all our work. Keeping us on track. And that concludes my report.
Wow. Very busy. Any questions for Ross? All right, I'm sure we will get questions will be emailed to you. We have a special guest that is zooming in. John London is the head of communications and media for the Lake Placid 2023 World University Games, which we've discussed in previous TAC meetings. But just to underscore, the 2023 games are quickly approaching, and this event is expected to bring thousands of athletes and visitors from across the globe to compete in Lake Placid. The World University Games is the largest winter multi-sport collegiate athletic event in the world. We anticipate it to be significant for New York State tourism, both in the short term and long term, because events like these drive international visitors to not only participate and attend in the games, but explore host communities, support small businesses, and bring much needed tourism dollars that help sustain the industry and hospitality jobs in the area. Additionally, the global exposure generated by the games, showing off Lake Placid and the Adirondacks as a premier winter sports location, will generate interest for future travel. It's a great opportunity to showcase all that there is to see and do in the North Country. So we've invited John here today to talk more about the games. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much. Well, now I got nothing left. That was a perfect introduction. So thank you very, very much. And Ross, I also want to thank you for allowing the World University Games to be a part of Media Night. That was a great opportunity, and it was nice to be back and rubbing shoulders with you and the team from Empire State Development and Partners. So that was really a great time. And for us at the organizing committee, a chance to really expose ourselves to another group of media as we approach these games. My name is John Lundin, and as was said, I am the head of communications and media for the Lake Placid 2023 FISU World University Games. And yes, my hair used to be blonde, but now it's gray because we are less than 2 months away from the beginning of these games. A little bit of a background on me. I've been involved in 6 Olympic Games, either in the broadcast capacity with ESPN, CBS, TBS, ABC, and I've also been a press officer to the United States Olympic Committee. I spent about 10 years as the director of communications for USA Luge, and then I later joined the media operations for the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee and the International Olympic Committee. I've been a press officer to 4 of these FISU World University Games, including 2 Winter Games. I was the Team USA press attaché for the sliding sports in Eagles, Austria, the one and only time that skeleton was a part of the World University Games. And I was also the press attaché for Team USA for speed skating in Torino, Italy. Before I joined the organization, as the organizing committee for the games, I spent 11 years as the director of communications for ORDA. In that role, I had a chance to work very closely with the state of New York and also Empire State Development. And it allowed me to serve as the chief press officer for many of the World Cup and the World Championships and the intercollegiate events that took place on ORDA's venues. I grew up in Lake Placid. I attended the 1980 Olympic Winter Games, so it really did set the course for my career and my passion for international sports. I guess we're ready for the next slide. So let me tell you a little bit about these games. And as the lead said, these World University Games were awarded to the state of New York, as well as Lake Placid and the Adirondack region in March of 2018. These FISU Games are the largest multi-sporting event for collegiate athletes in the world. And in terms of size, the FISU Games are the 2nd largest multi-sporting event in the world, second only to the Olympic Games. To give you a little bit of perspective here, when Lake Placid hosted the 1980 Olympic Winter Games in 1980, 37 nations participated with roughly about 1,100 athletes and delegates. These games will feature about 2,500 collegiate athletes ages 17 to 25 and delegates as well from more than 50 nations.
Wow.
Next slide, please. All right. Some history about the FISU Games. FISU is the Federation for International University Sports, and they're really the event's worldwide governing body. I think everybody in the room knows about the International Olympic Committee. They're the worldwide governing body for the Olympics. So FISU is the worldwide governing body for this collegiate multi-sporting event and educational festival. It was formed in 1949, and the first FISU Winter Games took place in 1960 in Chamonix, France. And Chamonix, France is also very famous on the Olympic stage because that's where the first Olympic Games took place in 1924. The FISU Winter Games have largely been held in Europe and Asia, but they have ventured outside of those 2 continents just one other time. And that was in 1972 when Lake Placid played host to the FISU Games. That was the 7th edition now. And in January of 2023, we will play host to the 31st edition of these FISU Winter Games. I should also note that in 1993, Buffalo played host to the Summer FISU Games. So that means that New York State is the only state in the country to ever have hosted this global sporting event and educational festival. So with that, let me show you a little bit of a sizzle video that's going to explain what we all have a chance to look forward to coming in January. it is truly going to be an exciting event. And at the end of that video, I think everybody noticed that there was snow on the ground. Actually, there's snow on the ground this morning in Lake Placid. So, yeah. So White Base is making snow, Gore is making snow, and there's some natural snow on the ground outside of our offices. So we are super psyched about the arrival of snow. And that means that the countdown is even more intense leading up to these games. Sarah, if we can have the next video, please, that'd be great. Or the next slide, rather, I'm sorry. There we go. To give you some other historical details about these games, the collegiate athletes participating in the Lake Placid 2023 FISU World University Games, they are going to compete in 12 sports, and they include ice hockey, figure skating, really all of your favorite winter sports: alpine and Nordic skiing, speed skating, short track speed skating, snowboard, and freestyle, just to name a few. I'll detail all of the events in just a couple of moments. These winter collegiate athletes, they're going to represent 50 plus nations. And what also makes this event so unique is that not only are these collegiate athletes representing their nation, but they're also representing their university too. And that's more than 600 universities globally. The forecasted attendance is about 105,000 tickets sold. And the goal really is to have the visitor attend more than one event with their family. So the ticket sales reflect that. And the ticket prices for the events range anywhere from just $10 to $45. So they're far less inexpensive than what you'll experience if you go to an Olympic Games. So that does leave plenty of money for event goers to spend additional money and time to visit the shops, the stores, and all of the other amenities. That really does make the Adirondack region such a unique place. Next slide, Sarah, please. Our host broadcast, ESPN, is going to be the host television and digital streaming provider to the United States. Its Canadian version is TSN, so they'll provide the coverage to Canada. Right now, ESPN is planning on carrying 160 hours across its linear and digital platforms. That includes ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, and ESPN Plus. Of that, 20 hours will be live on ESPN, which is expected to feature about 3 hours worth of coverage, ESPN2 about 4 hours worth of coverage, and ESPNU about 13.5 hours worth of live coverage. To kind of give you a breakdown of that, ESPNU plans to have 1.5 hours of live coverage of alpine skiing on January 13th. ESPNU will also have another 30 minutes of live coverage of snowboarding on January 13th. ESPN2 plans 4 hours of live coverage to cover the sports of slopestyle, biathlon, and alpine GS. That's set for January 18th. There's also going to be full coverage on ESPNU of women's ice hockey. That's going to be on January 20th. And then full coverage on ESPNU of the men's ice hockey bronze medal game from the Herb Brooks Arena on the 21st of January. And then there's full coverage on ESPN of the men's ice hockey gold medal game. And that's going to take place on January 22nd. And then throughout Europe, Eurosport Television is planning on offering consistent live and delayed coverage of the Lake Placid 2023 FISU World University Games without really missing any key moments of the event. Eurosport has committed 27 hours of coverage to its local channels in nations such as France, the United Kingdom, Italy, Germany, Poland, and the Asia Pacific, just to name a few. So in all, globally, this event could reach about 300 million people. Again, that's a global count. The next slide, Sarah. Thank you. Again, let me touch upon the sports that I just touched on a few moments ago, but I'll run them down. The 12 sports that these athletes will be participating in. They are alpine skiing, biathlon, cross-country skiing, as well as curling, figure skating, freestyle, and free ski. Ice hockey for both men and women, Nordic combined, which is really one of my favorite sports, ski jumping, snowboarding, speed skating, and short track speed skating. And of those 12 sports, there are 86 medal events. And unlike the Olympic Games, where there's a disproportionate number of medals awarded, there's actually going to be an equal number of medals awarded to men and women in January. And I'll tell you a little bit more about those medals as we move through this presentation. Sarah. So these are the world's top collegiate athletes competing in January. And for some, this is going to be the pinnacle of their athletic careers. And for others, right now, about a thousand of them, they've gone on to compete in the Olympic Winter Games. And for some of the athletes that will be competing in Lake Placid, we may see them about a year later when they compete in the Olympic Games in Cortina, Italy, which is the next host city for those games. Some past FISU Winter Games athletes have included figure skaters Paul Wiley. Paul won a bronze medal in 1987, and of course he went on in 1992 to win an Olympic silver medal. Nancy Kerrigan was a bronze medalist in 1989, and she's a two-time Olympic medalist in women's figure skating. And then of course skip John Schuster in 2007. He won the United States' only medal, in fact, a gold medal at the FISU World University Games in 2007. And then he went on to win the gold medal in 2018 in curling. Sarah. So none of this could have been possible without the support and the continued commitment from New York State. The state has made significant investments in the modernization of the 1980 Olympic Winter Games venues. And this is really the first modernization of these venues since they were built, and that's ahead of the 1980 Olympic Winter Games. So the venues are at or near completion, and some have already hosted globally recognized events, and they're ready to welcome this global audience. They're going to include the Olympic Center, the Herb Brooks Arena, which will be the site for opening and closing ceremonies, figure skating, and the men's and women's ice hockey medal round. The 1932 Jack Shea Arena, that arena will play host to short track speed skating. And of course, the James C. Sheffield Speed Skating Oval, made famous because of Eric Heiden and his 5 Olympic gold medals in 1980, and the speed skating events will take place there. The Olympic Jumping Complex is the home to the 128 and 100 meter ski jumps. That's going to be the site for the men's and women's ski jumping, and it's also going to be the site for ski jumping for that portion of the Nordic Combined event. Mount Van Hoverberg, which is now the home to an unparalleled base lodge in Nordic Stadium, will be the home for Nordic skiing, and that includes biathlon, cross-country skiing, and the cross-country skiing event for Nordic Combined. Whiteface Mountain, they have new lifts, gondolas, snowmaking, wider trails. They will host all of the alpine events for the games. And really don't forget about the village of Lake Placid, where there's been a significant modernization to the village's Main Street, the infrastructure and the utilities. Main Street's going to be alive every night with celebrations and entertainments. And at Mids Park, that's really going to be the center of the village's hub and all of the excitement, as that's going to serve as the Medals Plaza throughout the games. The awarding of the Lake Placid 2023 FISU World University Games really helped to spark the modernization efforts, and because of the commitment made by the state of New York, what I just mentioned, these venues are going to serve as economic drivers for the next 40 years plus and continue to drive not only domestic visitors, but international visitors alike. They're going to continue to bring high-level international sports, athletes, coaches, and volunteers, and also guests who want to continue to explore these year-round attractions, but really also enjoy the activities that make the Adirondack region so unique, to include the countless outdoor activities like hiking and biking and camping and boating and fishing, and of course, the dining and the shopping. And this will help to continue to attract growth in businesses and employment opportunities, and of course, global exposure. In addition to the modernization of Orta's venues, Saranac Lake has a brand new civic center that's going to be home to curling, which is now going to be a year-round facility, and that's going to go a long way towards continuing to spark that community's economic growth. And Gore Mountain in North Creek is going to be the home of freestyle and free ski and snowboard. They've updated their snowmaking and grooming. They've got new trails. And also, because of this, you're going to continue to see Gore Mountain and North Creek really continue to attract guests from the capital region and beyond to that area, Johnsburg, Glens Falls, and of course, Lake George. And then the men's and women's preliminary hockey will take place on the campuses of SUNY Canton and SUNY Potsdam, as well as Clarkson University. And those three universities have made significant upgrades to their arenas too. Sarah. So let me tell you a little bit about the medals. As I said, these collegiate athletes will be competing in 86 medal events, an equal number of medals for men and women. So in all, between the individual medal events and the team medal events, there's going to be more than 700 medals awarded between January 12th and the 22nd. And one of the pledges that the organizing committee has made is to utilize the resources and the materials and the talents available throughout the state. And really a prime example of this is the games medal. The actual medal that you see there, that was designed by Sidekick, a company from Glens Falls. And then the one-of-a-kind glass medallion, that was designed by the faculty and the students at Alfred University. And they used resource and recycled glass from Hillcrest and Potters in Potsdam. What's really fun about this medal and that glass medallion, so as you see it on your screen there, it's blue in color, but under a UV light, it will actually change color to yellow and orange, and it symbolizes the flame of the cauldron. So in a way, the athletes who win these medals will be bringing a portion of the flame home with them. The medals were boxed and crafted by Flower City Craft Company in Rochester. And then finally, the Rochester Rehabilitation Center is carefully boxing the more than 700 medals, which will be awarded to the podium athletes during the games. Sarah? This is Adirondack Mac, everybody. And Ross showed a picture of Adirondack Mac just a moment ago. Mac attended media night in New York City, but Mac really does a great job in representing the spirit and the enthusiasm of these games. Mac is our official mascot. Mac stands a little bit taller than 6.5 feet tall. And Mac was chosen from about 150 submissions from entrants representing 87 communities across 35 different counties in New York State. Mac was designed by a student, a sophomore at the Fashion Institute of Technology, and her name was Christina Ingranowski, and she's a native of Farmington, Ontario County. And Mac's made appearances throughout New York State since Mac debuted back in November of last year. Mac's been at shows and festivals, schools, various ceremonies and events. And just this past summer, Mac also attended the New York State Fair. On a side note, students at the Fashion Institute of Technology, they have also designed the medal ceremony jackets and will unveil those jackets sometime next month. Mac will continue to play a large role in the organizing committee's marketing and public relations efforts leading up to the games. And of course, you'll be able to spot Mac throughout the games, as Mac will be attending many of the events and several of the award ceremonies. This is our World University Games logo, and the logo captures both the character and the uniqueness of the Adirondacks and at Lake Placid, and really the excitement of the games. I'm just going to highlight a few things about this logo here. You will notice that it does take the form of the collegiate athlete, and that is really the focal point of the games. The U for the arms represent the universities. The legs that you see on the bottom, they represent the mountains, the Adirondack High Peaks, and then the vibrant color palette that it features the warm and cool gradients, resulting in the contemporary flair of the design for that logo. And we have several lapel pins, and all of our merchandise features that logo in there too. Sarah? And just last month, delegates from New York State, the village of Lake Placid, and the organizing committee all traveled to the birthplace of FISU, that's Torino, Italy, to accept the flame and bring the flame back to Lake Placid for the first time since 1972. And here's a video of that visit.
Welcome to the University of Torino for the official flame lighting ceremony of the Lake Placid 2023 Peace of World University Games, the 31st edition.
A torch embodies brightness, energy, and strength, reflecting the qualities that university athletes personify. Today we light the torch and begin the journey of the FISU flame from this historic city of Torino to Lake Placid.
Thank you, Sarah. And our next slide. So the central theme for these games is really sustainability. And one of our missions is to be the most sustainable FISU games ever, and to educate the fans, the visitors, and officials, and really everybody involved about taking responsibility for the climate and ensuring that winters will be here long after us. And be an economic driver for the state of New York and the Adirondack region and beyond. So with that said, the organizing committee has been committed to leaving as little of a carbon footprint as possible. And one example of that is really this flame. It's a carbon-free LED flame, and it illuminates the FISU flame. This flame, again, going back to using the talent and the resources in New York State, it was designed and built by a company called Adirondack Studios out of Argyle, New York. And as a matter of fact, they've actually built 9 of these flames. And this is the same business that built the award podiums for the 1980 Olympic Games. The torch and the flame, they're soon going to embark on a 13 to 16 stop tour throughout the state before arriving to Lake Placid on January 12th for the official lighting of the Lake Placid 2023 FISU World University Games Cauldron and the beginning of the 11-day sporting event and educational festival. Some of the stops include college campuses. They include Alfred University. We have Syracuse University on the list of stops, SUNY Canton, SUNY Potsdam, SUNY Plattsburgh. We also have Clarkson University and St. Lawrence University, Paul Smith College, North Country Community College. Other stops on the relay include Montreal, which is the home to the Game Save Winter sponsor, Hydro-Quebec. We'll also make stops at the First Nations in the US and Canada. We'll have a stop at the Capitol in Albany. We'll be in Queensbury. We'll be in North Creek, Keene, Tupper Lake, Saranac Lake, and even New York City. And it's really our hope that during these stops, not only do we create awareness about the games, but we also create an interest and awareness about Save Winter in our FISU World Conference, which will be addressing the climate change and winter sports. And the conference is going to feature athletes and advocates, authors, innovators, and environmentalists and leaders in both the private sector and in government. And some of the featured speakers that will be presenting during this conference include Bill McKibben. We also have Nathan Chen, who's been involved through his relationship with Panasonic. He's the reigning men's Olympic figure skating gold medalist. And we also have Aaron Mayer there too. And I think some of you know him as a national wilderness activist. So they're going to be some of our keynote speakers at our FISU World Conference, which will be taking place during the first week of these World University Games. And for those who would like some more information about that and to purchase tickets, you can do that by visiting our website, lakeplacid.com. So really in conclusion, I want to thank you for giving me the chance to present about the Lake Placid 2023 FISU World University Games. Again, these games are less than 2 months away, January 12th through the 22nd. We'll have about 1,500 collegiate athletes from 50 plus nations competing. Not only will they represent their nations, but they'll represent their universities. That's about 600 in total. They'll compete in the 12 winter sports and 86 medal events. And you can follow the games at lakeplacid2023.com. You can also follow the games on our social media with @LakePlacid2023, the hashtag LakePlacid2023, as well as @SaveWinter and the hashtag @SaveWinter. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, John Lundin, for that very comprehensive report. I do like the way you've incorporated where everything was made, which to me, it sounded like much of this was all made in New York State. So there's an economic story about that. So I need to ask, and you might not have the answer now, but what is the estimated economic impact for the games in total for New York State?
So I don't have that answer now. It's something that we'll continue to put together. And once we have the tickets sold and that we have we know the exact number of athletes and visitors that will be coming to the state to participate.
No, we wish you all the best. And I do like that Mac, who I met, by the way, on October 26th.
All right.
He's he or she, I don't know, doesn't matter. But was quite, it takes a good picture. So, and the fact that it was developed by an FIT student, I think, is a great PR hook. If you haven't pursued that by now, I'm thinking maybe the governor could go to FIT and maybe meet the student and Mac together. I don't know. It just seems like a great way. The more you can do in New York City, where they have such a concentrated media.
But when they're unveiling the jacket, Mac could be
or
there.
the flame.
Well,
I don't know when the flame is going to be here in New York.
I was wondering when and where it's going to be in New York City.
When will the flame be here in New York? And
So I think Rich, I see Rich and Rich Gagliano in that room. That's something that we're working on now. We're hoping that we'll have.
The organizing committee is still working on the specific dates. It was actually in New York when it arrived from Italy. So
Okay.
it was an event there, and they're working through the specific torch stop. So still TBD on when it's back in New York City.
So and then the flame was also there, and Mac was also, as you saw, at media night in New York City.
John, where are the jackets going to be revealed?
So the jackets, we're hoping and we're planning on unveiling those jackets during that ceremony in New York City. So there's going to be a lot of different components with the flame torch relay in the city. So our hope is to have it right in the heart of downtown New York City, the torch ceremony, the relay ceremony, and also the unveiling of the medals of the ceremonial jackets for the medal ceremonies.
Great. Well, count us in if we can help at all to help promote that. But thank you so much, and
we will.
Wishing
Thank
you the best. Any other
Thank you very much.
questions for John before we let him go? Okay. All right. Very good. Before I get to new business and open up the floor, I just also wanted to let the record state that Thurman Thomas joined us for attendance. So thank you, Thurm. Any new business? Are they unmuted, or can they unmute if
They have to unmute themselves.
anyone have their hand up? No? Okay. All right. Ross, we're all good to go.
I'm good.
All right. I do want to remind everybody that January 23rd is our next meeting here in New York, same place, 11 a.m. Natasha, we also want to welcome you again and looking forward to working with you. And, you know, I think the timing of you coming on to TAC is really key, especially after, you know, Natasha represents Westchester. So the fact that Halloween and that is like just insane for you. And it's become such a huge part of the tourism industry, you know, for New York State. So we appreciate all the fine work that you've done there on building that.
Thank you.
But we look forward to your work on the TAC. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, Eleanor, and I need a second. All right, Tom, always good for a second. Thank you. Excellent. So I need to say the time that we have adjourned, which is 12:21, and wishing you all a wonderful Thanksgiving. Next time we will see you will be in 2023. So I know it's hard to believe. So enjoy the holidays, no matter how you spend it. We appreciate all the fine work, and I'm very thankful for Ross and the team at ESD. Rich, everybody here has just been fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's my Thanksgiving to everybody and to, of course, the wonderful TAC members. So enjoy, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you, Christine.
Thanks,
Thank you, Ross.
Thank you.